What's up, everybody? So this is the Airofit device. It's sick. You've probably seen a lot of commercials on Instagram about it, which is how I found it. I've talked to people about respiratory training before, and it was interesting. The reason, why aren't we doing this, right? We're breathing. Can we make ourselves stronger? What's going on with the respiratory system? There's a lot of information on the Airofit website, and I put a few links in the blog. But I wanted to highlight a couple things here as to why I started using this once I messaged them and got on board with them, because, it just seems like it's breathing. It's important, right? I mean, it sounds so stupid to say. But when you think about it, when you have power meters, there's the power meter, the hardware, and there's also the software, WKO4, or, some people are using Strava metrics or whatnot. These initially came out to help asthma patients and patients with COPD, and then the founder eventually used them on his kids who were in swim meets, and their progress skyrocketed. And then they made the software, the app on the phone that is still going through tweaks and developments that helps us as endurance athletes to use to get stronger. And I was a little skeptical, wasn't sure exactly what would I be doing? How do they develop these modules? But I said, hey, I'd love to try this thing out. This is who I am. Let me know what you think. So I gave this a test. I thought a great test would be before Tour Southland, the hardest race of my life, 7-day stage race. My training was really hard for that. A lot of threshold efforts, a lot of threshold bursts, max aerobic, aka VO2 max. My goal was to get in some breaks and also to be able to go for most combative jersey. So getting a break and be the last guy to get caught one day. I ended up in the green jersey for a day, which was unexpected, but that was from the break. But my training was set up so that I could go really deep into day 7. Did really well in the time trial for me. Came in 31st, but against that competition, I was super stoked with the numbers. But I wanted to put this out, what is a respiratory training device? What's the whole point of it? So I actually wrote down a few notes because I can't rattle this off the top of my head. 3 main modules that I'm focusing on as a cyclist is to have stronger breathing muscles. So basically look at that as the endurance side. We have less fatigue from breathing. Make the breathing easier on the body so that you're actually able to put out more work on the bike. This is huge for gravel racing, right? I mean, you're out there for 6, 8, 10 hours, a really long time. Every little bit of energy matters. Better anaerobic tolerance. So going hard, make going hard more tolerable. Those modules, they all, when you first start, are very difficult. You're looking at different types of training, one's called elevation, one is depth, different ways where you're learning how to breathe or hold your breath and have your body learn how to not use, but get used to CO2 and how the mix of gases changes. And you actually, if you look up breath holding, there's different yoga articles out there, how breath holding is really a lost art in our current society. There's some really interesting information out there. And the anaerobic tolerance ones were so hard for me that I would start out and I couldn't finish a 2-minute one. I'm now up to being able to do some for 5 minutes. I'm only at intermediate. There's beginner, intermediate, and advanced, or expert they call it. And so just that, being able to go longer to finish these, I'm okay, I'm getting better at this, but what does this mean for my cycling? And I'll get to that. And then there's improved vital lung capacity, which the whole point is letting more air in that can be actually used by your muscles. When I first started, the weakness to this is the program is still under development. But it's they always say, you put out a product when it's good enough. What product does everybody buy that's nowhere near done? The iPhone. You're constantly getting updates. Things are constantly getting tweaked. They put this out, and while the app is ready to go, I've been talking to, and I know other athletes, they message, we have a product manager we message, and I've done a couple different interviews with them of what do we need to change ASAP, just to make the flow better and to help us as athletes understand the pathway that we should go down. Really what I started to do was I did the anaerobic tolerance, I did vital lung capacity and respiratory strength, and as I went through them, I figured, what do I suck at? What am I what do I have to pull this out of my mouth because I can't finish. And those are the ones I've been trying to focus on. As I got tired, I would do the ones that were more naturally my strength. You want to have fatigue on the diaphragm, and you want to basically fatigue your system, put load on it, just like training and cycling, to be able to get stronger. It's really hard when you first start. At least I found it to be really hard. Maybe my respiratory system sucked. Your body, I would not be able to wear a sweatshirt and sweatpants when doing this. I actually change into shorts and a t-shirt. Some of the anaerobic tolerance ones, I'm in just shorts, no t-shirt, because your body's generating so much heat. Sounds crazy, but it's really amazing, like what you see your core engaging in, and actually just like your throat, and you got to try it to know what I'm talking about. But I'm sure that those that are using it know exactly what I'm talking about. Patrick Wally, we were at in New Zealand, and he's like, dude, do you sweat when you do this? I'm like, I have to change. It's tiring. It's a workout. You're trying to start doing 5 minutes a day, twice a day. Then you want to work up to 10 minutes twice a day. I'm trying to do 15 minutes twice a day, but I do it in the morning, and I try to do it early afternoon. Some days you only get 15 minutes in. It's just life happens and you're busy. But if you wait till the end of the day when you're tired, this is really challenging. So I would advise you not to do that. But my anecdotal evidence, so you can look through the blog post. The watts were awesome for Tour of Southland for me. Still got shellacked, but it was an amazing experience, and I've definitely came out a stronger cyclist. But this was definitely a huge portion in me being able to train harder to put out the performance on the stage when I won the most combative and the green jersey. When I was doing my threshold efforts and my threshold burst efforts, I really felt in control of my breathing. Not necessarily just the physical, the inhalation and exhalation of how you're breathing, but I didn't feel like I was gasping for breath as much on VO2 max efforts, or I'd be gasping for breath later in the effort, which allowed me, you're really not VO2 maxing until you're breathing, and I was doing that on I was able to do harder intervals to create that breathing sensation. This, when you first start, I found myself kind of like gasping for breath, or the flow of my breath was off, and it just helped me to control my breathing. The interesting thing is, I then took a break in Tour of Southland. If you have a big competition, they recommend, say you're doing intermediate, go to beginner and lessen the time, so almost like taper your training. I was so tired there that I just stopped doing it. I had no energy for it. And when I started back up, it was much more difficult. I just came back from my bachelor party. So for the day before I left, and when I got home, I was off for like a week. This morning, this was really hard. So anecdotally, I felt like it was working, but then I had the metrics on the power meter to show me that my watts were better. You can look on their website. There's a Olympic speed skater that she started crushing when she used this just 8 weeks later. I would say I started noticing results probably 5 to 6 weeks later, but even in vital lung capacity, I went from 4 liters to I'm now at 6.9 liters. You're not always going to have the best day. But you can, if you plotted a trend line, I would bet in every single module, you're going to see an improvement. I'm excited to see where this continues to go as they continue to make developments, because this is like the early power meter. We're just scratching the surface. But it has 6 different levels for your inhalation and 6 different ones for your exhalation. So I would pick one up. Brendan10 is the discount code. I'm already seeing results from 6 weeks after we went to Tour of Southland. I can't wait to keep using this and have a couple months stretch going. You got to stay on top of it. You got to do it. But if you can carve out 10 to 15 minutes a day, you don't do it when you're biking. You don't do it when you're doing other things. You got to carve it out and do it. But I think it's going to be a big game changer. So pick up an Airofit. They're like $200 something bucks. Get 10% off. Brendan10. Hit me up with questions and message me. However, Brendan at Evoke Bike. We'll put them on our frequently asked questions on the blog. But Respiratory Trainer, don't get dropped because you didn't want to just add something new that you're, thinking, should I do it, should I not do it? This is it's breathing. It's what we're doing when we're riding. So get one today. and let me know what questions you have. See ya.